Where to find goth clothes? This is a question that gets frequently asked whenever I do Q&As, so today's video is actually dedicated to it, as I find this a very good question for whoever starts into the goth scene or just is interested in the clothing style. Hello my spooky bats and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Orphea and in today's video I want to answer yet another frequently asked question about the goth scene, and it is where to find goth clothes. And this question is actually more complex than it seems at a first glance. It all depends on what you consider goth clothing and also what style you have and what style you want to wear, because there are a lot of really amazing clothes that you can find almost anywhere. Now I am going to try and cover as many options as possible in this video, but of course I would like to know what you think and what your opinion is or where you find clothes, so feel free to let me know in a comment. I love interacting with you all, and the previous videos that I've made were super fun to me because I actually get to know you a lot better. You are my people and I really appreciate you. You are my bats, and I have a really fun announcement to make pretty soon to you as well about the 2 bats that I got designed specifically for you, for my subscribers. But enough about that. In today's video I will be making an announcement about it pretty soon, but today we are going to talk about where you can find goth clothes. I will go from the cheapest option to the most expensive option because that is what makes sense for me in this video, because a lot of people want to know where to find cheap goth clothes. So the first option that I'm going to give you is thrift shops. And this might come as a surprise to a lot of people, but do know that I have found really cool black pieces in thrift stores. You don't have to buy name brand goth items to look goth, not at all. So I find thrift stores a holy grail if you are looking into getting clothes that you can either customize, you can DIY some things about them, or if you are just looking to have a lot of black pieces that you combine with each other. Also, thrift shopping is a lot more sustainable than buying actual new clothing from brands. The second cheap option, in my opinion, is going onto second-hand websites. So this is close to the second-hand physical stores, but there's also Depop, there is in Belgium it's called Vinted, there's eBay, but you have to make sure that you actually buy second-hand and that you are not buying China-made cheap clothing. That's also a cheap option, but it's not at all sustainable. Now, I think that a lot of the clothes that I currently have in my closet are actually second-hand bought clothing. There are also dedicated Facebook groups for certain brands or for certain types of clothing that you could look into, and that is personally what I do most nowadays. If I want to buy something in particular, I will first go onto second-hand websites and see if it is out there to find or to buy, and if not, I will maybe consider buying it new, or I will look for another alternative. So I think that these online thrift stores, these online second-hand stores are actually the best of this entire video. It is what I would highly recommend and what I personally prefer doing, and where I have found a lot of gems, including the dress I'm wearing right now. This is a lip service dress from their collection years and years ago, which I have found thanks to a friend on Vinted. It was not expensive at all and I'm super happy I got it there. Now the third cheap option is actually an option that I personally would not recommend as much, but that I still wanted to put in this video just for the completion of this video and to have everything in here that you might want, and it is cheap online websites. And I'm talking about Wish, AliExpress, what have you, Alibaba, eBay even. There is a lot of clothing that you can find China-made. It's poor quality. It's actually not something that I would recommend at all, so I am not going to go any deeper into this subject. But know that it exists, know that I personally don't think that it's a good option, but I do understand if you don't have a budget at all, that this might be very tempting. Instead of going to shop on these websites for the China-made crap, go to second-hand stores, go to online platforms that have second-hand clothing, because in my personal opinion, buying second-hand is way more sustainable and way more ethical, and also better for you, because the quality of the clothing will be better if you buy second-hand clothing, even if it's brand names or not brand names, than to buying new China-made crap. Then we get into this kind of gray zone of regular stores. H&M has a lot of pretty black clothes. Their divided collection can be seen as very alternative, and nowadays, since the trend has become to wear edgy clothing, you can actually find a lot of clothes in regular stores. Now, I personally don't like to shop in regular stores as much for my specific going out clothing because I just like having a more defined style, but that is of course up to you. Now, if you go into these stores and you are shopping for a few good basics, then I would highly recommend it, but also make sure that you shop in kind of their more sustainable section if you can. I know, for example, that H&M actually has a sustainable collection. I know that Sienna, which is a chain here in Belgium that also does those clothing, has one. Primark, I'm not actually sure because Primark is actually really too cheap and I feel the quality of their clothes is really poor. But then again, if you don't have a big budget and if you want to experiment with different styles, it might be a good solution. However, I will always go back if you can buy second hand because it is a lot better. And I can promise you, if you invest a little bit more in, for example, a brand piece from a brand that you know makes good quality, it will last you a lot longer than a cheaply made thing from H&M. So this option was to buy at just regular stores that are out there. Now, the next options are actually the highest price point, and it is to buy on online stores. Now, of course, you can make this as cheap or as expensive as you want, but most of these online branded stores towards Goth clothing, such as Attitude Holland and what have you, because there is a ton of them out there, they have different options and you also have sales. Now, I would personally recommend looking at sales all the time. Get onto the newsletters because you will get announcements of sales. And I think most of these websites have a sale every single month, whether it be a set discount if you buy for a certain amount, or whether it be an entire section of discounted products, etc. And for me, honestly, this is something, if I want to buy something new, that I do. I will put it onto my wish list and I will look at the promotions that that store is having. I will set myself a budget that I want to spend on a particular piece, and if it goes around that budget, then I will purchase it and I will try not to buy it beforehand. And Goth clothing, especially name brand clothing, is not cheap most of the time, so if you can get a good deal on it, I think it is way more worth it and you will be way happier about it anyways. Now, I do understand that not everyone wants to buy something that is mass-produced because, face it, a lot of these Goth brands know that there is a big market and they also started mass-producing products, where I find the individuality of the style has gone completely gone. And if you want something unique or something that is only made in a limited amount, I would recommend checking out Etsy, because on Etsy you can also find different types of Goth stores that only release limited quantities of certain items and then close their stores again. Now, a good example of this is Exo e Umbra. It is actually a really sustainable brand. They promote sustainability and they have specific days that you can order from them, and then their wait list closes or their order list closes, and then you have to wait for X amount of time until they open again. Now, this of course is not cheap, but if you have the money and if you want to invest into quality, sustainable pieces and support indie brands, then I could highly recommend that. But that of course is the high tier option. It is one of the most expensive options. Now, of course, if you can afford to buy anything at any price and you don't have to look at money, I would still recommend looking at sales and looking at package deals or discounts if you buy for set amounts, etc. Because I personally, even if I have the money to buy something full price, I am just way happier if I can find a good deal on something, but that's also just how I work, and I feel kind of guilty if I buy something full price, unless of course it is from a small creator, someone who hand makes things, then of course I am willing to pay full price, no problem, to support someone's work. Now, there are a few websites that I personally would recommend if you are shopping online, so I will be linking them in the description box of this video, but the main website that I personally buy from is Attitude Holland and Phantasmagoria. Now, finally, to end this video, I quickly want to talk about the most expensive things in Goth clothing, and it is shoes. Shoes are something that I personally do not like to save money on. Now, I personally prefer investing into a type of shoes that I know is gonna last, for example, new rugs, than to buy several different online brand stores that are very cheap and to have them break after 2 wears. So I personally buy New Rock, Demonia and Killstar shoes, but my focus is on New Rocks, even if they don't have all the styles that I like, and that is why I often also buy from Demonia and from Killstar. But also for these three brands, since they are available through Attitude Holland, I will always wait until there is a good discount on them. If you remember only one thing from this video, it is to buy second-hand clothing if you can. Whether it be from physical thrift shops or from online thrift shops or online second-hand websites, I would highly recommend doing that instead of buying brand new clothing. There is too much clothing in this world. Even for us alternative people, there is a lot of crap out there because regular websites and popular online platforms have picked up that we buy clothing and that we spend a decent amount on clothing, and I don't think it's worth to buy crap quality clothing that you then throw away and that ends up in landfills, because ultimately that's what happens to a lot of the clothing that people buy that they don't wear and that they throw away. It goes to maybe a second-hand store or a charity shop first, but if they cannot sell it, it actually most of the time will try to be recycled. But because of the sheer amount of clothing that is thrown away, it will most likely go to a landfill and end up God knows where. So if, like me, you like to think about our pretty little planet, then of course try and buy less, and if you want to buy things, try and make a sustainable option. Now, of course, I know that this is not doable for everyone. You might live in a very remote area, you might only have access to certain types of stores around you or certain types of stores online or that ship to your country, etc. But I think if we all make a conscious effort, especially within the Goth community, that we can actually reduce the mass production of crappy quality clothing and to actually have unique, one-of-a-kind pieces. And of course, if you can DIY a little bit, if you have a sewing machine, or if you know how to design things onto clothing, or even if you can make your own clothes, then I think you will be a lot happier with your closet, as you will have unique, one-of-a-kind items. Before I end this video, I quickly want to thank my patrons, and more specifically my high-tier patrons Anders and Jerry. If you're not a patron yet, feel free to join me on Patreon, as I give monthly behind the scenes and there's also lots of other bonuses on there. Give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it. Don't forget to let me know in the comment section what your opinion is. Where do you buy your clothing? What do you think is a good alternative and what do you absolutely avoid? And if you enjoy this type of content, feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I am back into making weekly videos right now for at least the next 2 months, as I have found a lot of very fun topics that I want to talk about and that I want to address and that I finally feel confident enough to talk about. So I would really appreciate if you subscribe to my channel. So I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next week with a new video. Bye!